When you're asked what's a perfect episode of television, what show usually comes to mind? For many, it's the Ozymandias episode from Breaking Bad or the Red Wedding episode from Game of Thrones. I also really like Season 1, Episode 8 of Watchmen. But the through line with many of these episodes is that they feel like the culmination of what's come before. I don't know about you, but it usually takes me about 3 to 5 episodes to get into a TV show. But there's one that not only got me hooked immediately, but I'd argue it's one of the best episodes of television. I'm Sam Carrico, and thank you so much for joining me in this critical analysis of the pilot episode of Glee. In any form of storytelling, world building is incredibly important, and Glee does an efficient job of that right off the bat. We begin with an incredibly close-up shot of the Cheerios that pulls out to show us a pretty impressive routine that they're practicing. Despite a slip-up at the end, they look pretty good. We get our first glimpse of Coach Sue Sylvester, more to come later. All she notices is the end slip-up and says,
"You think this is hard? Try being waterboarded. That's hard."
Okay, Dick Cheney. Based on the set design, this establishes what feels like a real high school in 2009. Based on the Cheerios' performance, we see that they're pretty serious, and based on Sue's reaction, we get insight into her character, plus a joke, just seconds into the show. I love it already. Roll the intro. For a musical show, it would have been so easy to want to record an elaborate musical number for the opening, but I love how efficient their choice is. It plays well with the comedy and the recaps that future episodes start with. We meet Will Schuester, arguably one of the most problematic characters to ever exist, and we'll get there, but they nail his introduction here. Again, combining comedy with storytelling, we see based on the car that Will is your average, struggling to pay the bills, public school teacher. Will walks right past Kurt, completely missing that he's being bullied by Puck and the jocks. It's not like that would ever happen in real life, right? Right?
Almost halfway done with almost all of it, Mr. Shue.
Finn is such a lovable dumbass. I love that line so much. His reluctance to outright bully Kurt, but simultaneously allow Puck to do so, says a lot about his character and where he's going to have to go later on in the show. I can't help but think that this shot of the Glee teacher from 1993 is played for laughs, but the quote at the bottom is so heartwarming, and even more so if you watch the entire series. The way that Will looks longingly at the Glee trophy as we transition to his boring day job as a Spanish teacher says so much about his character without really even having to say anything. As we meet the current Glee teacher, Sandy Ryerson, we get a sense of just how bad things have gotten since Will's glory days as a student. We begin to meet the McKinley High staff properly. Counselor Emma Pillsbury, football coach Ken Tanaka, and Sue Sylvester. We're also introduced to Love Triangle 101.
Hi, Emma.
Hey, Ken. Will?
I already get that Ken likes Emma, but Emma likes Will, and Will is oblivious, all conveyed naturally within like 3 lines. We get a couple more bits of information here. Emma is a germaphobe with cleanliness habits that we could all use right now, and the Cheerios are funded incredibly well by the school's budget, to the detriment of the other departments. We get more and more the impression that Sue is a villain, and a funny one at that.
I'll probably do it on my iPhone.
Remember when iPhones were new? Now we have our inciting incident.
Hey, did you hear that Sandy Ryerson got fired?
Really? Who's gonna take her Glee Club?
With a trip to the principal's office, we have our plot. Will Schuester wants to make Glee great again. The school can't pay for it until they start winning again, so Will agrees to foot the bill until they can place at regionals. If they don't, it's all over. After rebanding the Glee Club as New Directions, let's get to auditions. These are a great way to introduce the rest of our main cast and quickly give us just enough to know who they are. Mercedes looks up to Aretha Franklin, Kurt is gay, Tina has a stutter.
I never know I'm there. Never even knew.
I love how Kurt's audition isn't perfect, but he still shows raw talent. Finally, we meet our female lead, Rachel Berry, with a gold star.
Hi, my name is Rachel Barry, and I'll be singing On My Own from the seminal Broadway classic, Les Mis.
Raised by 2 gay dads, Rachel has grown up believing she's destined for great things, but we learn that she hasn't quite amounted to that in real life just yet. It's a hilarious, well-written intro that shows just how much Rachel is really like Lea Michele, yikes, but it also is a great way to showcase the affection and validation that Rachel craves so desperately. Her song choice of On My Own fits perfectly, plus that's a great song in every context. Remember MySpace?
When do we start rehearsals?
And I said to myself, sit down, you're rocking the boat.
Obviously, they're terrible, and why wouldn't they be? It's totally realistic, shows how the odds are really stacked against them. Rachel storms out, and as Shu goes to console her, we get some more great juxtaposition.
That's sloppy! You're sloppy, babies.
Nature and nurture. Sue believes that she can make her Cheerios the best by breaking them down. Will Schuester, for the most part, will build his kids up. Gosh, this episode tells us so much about the characters just by making us laugh. Rachel tells Mr. Schue that she needs a male vocalist that can keep up with her, and while I agree that they need work, I don't really know that, a male lead that can keep up with the great Rachel Berry is the problem, but of course Rachel would think that all they need is someone to keep up with her, though. Still, this gives us more insight into Rachel's motivation here. She wants to do something important with her high school years. If Glee won't be it, then why waste the time? After Will begs Principal Figgins not to cut the program just yet, we meet Terry Schuester, Will's wife. She's controlling, anxious, desperate to get pregnant, and awful for Will. Surely this won't end well. While visiting Terry at work, Will bumps into the disgraced former Glee teacher Sandy, and we get another one of the funniest scenes in the pilot. Sandy gives Will some medical marijuana and tells him to stay in touch. Will tries to get some of the popular kids to join the club, but to no avail. This puts him in a desperate situation. Enter Finn Hudson.
Even as I wander, I'm keeping you in sight.
Okay, now we get to the part where Will becomes a hugely problematic character. Spying on Finn in the bathroom will never not be creepy. Plus, Will blackmailing Finn will never not be hugely messed up. It's played for laughs though, and with some great camera work and acting by Corey Monteith, it is pretty funny. I absolutely love the priority number one, help the kids sign in the background here. Speaking of background, let's get some for Finn. Raised by his mother after his dad died in Iraq, he was inspired to sing and take care of his mom by a lawn care worker, which actually looked like a healthy affair when they were together. Finn agrees to join the Glee Club if Will won't snitch about the pot. And now the club is actually pretty good too with Finn's first rehearsal. I love how out of place Finn looks here though. We get another problematic scene with Terry. Not only does she not want to help Will chaperone the Glee kids on a field trip, she wants Will to quit teaching altogether and become an accountant. Totally healthy relationship. Nothing to see here. Coach Ken gives Finn some grief about joining Glee Club, and Finn has to lie to it about Puck, further showcasing the divide between cliques at McKinley High. Despite agreeing to let Will solicit auditions, Ken gets mad at him for getting Finn to join the Glee Club, but we quickly learn what this is really about.
How do I get you into my hatchback?
I'm pretty sure that even in 2009, Coach Ken would get a visit from HR if he kept pursuing Emma and acting aggressive towards Will like that. Speaking of aggressive, Rachel asks out Finn after meeting him once. Finn explains that he's dating the captain of the Celibacy Club, which is also somehow the most popular girl in school. I get that she's also a Cheerio, but in my high school, there's no way that the most popular girl in school would be the captain of the Celibacy Club. Will gets Emma to chaperone the students' visit to Carmel High, home of Vocal Adrenaline, regional champions, and McKinley's primary competition. Will and Emma get along naturally, almost as if they're a better fit for each other than Will and Terry. And they sit down with the Glee kids to see Vocal Adrenaline perform, and we get our first huge number of the show. Vocal Adrenaline is A1, but if I'm being honest, their choreography is just okay. I feel like they look better as a cohesive unit in the season finale. We'll get there. Regardless, the New Directions have their work cut out for them.
Chicks don't have prostates. I looked it up.
Honestly, that's just such a funny line. This show is so hilarious sometimes. This is a dog-eat-dog school. Ken told Will that the herd would come for Finn if he left his clique, and boy, they have. After work, Terry tells Will that she's pregnant, and we get some pretty solid acting on Matthew Morrison's part. I expect to see like a glimpse of regret in his eye as he hugs her, but he looks so genuinely happy, which makes the situation even more heartbreaking. Terry's so awful for him, but she's got him. He agrees to quit teaching and give up his dreams for her, for their child.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go.
What's great about the musical numbers on Glee is that they're being performed actually in the storyline by the characters. It would be one thing if Will was imagining singing his heart out before he leaves, but it feels more poignant knowing he's actually doing it in the context of the show. I do find it hilarious, though, that Will is filling out job applications in the next scene. Like, why would you quit your job and put in your 2 weeks notice before having another one lined up? That's not very fiscally responsible, William. As things seemingly return to normal, Finn quits the Glee Club, Puck puts Artie in a porta potty and invites Finn to come help him tip it over. Things aren't normal, though. Finn knows and likes this guy, Artie, and when forced to choose a side, Finn chooses to stand up for the underdog. This is a large part of his arc early on in the series, but it's perfectly exemplified in this moment in his come to Jesus scene. Seeing the lawn guy from his flashback at the end of it is just a great touch and perfectly brings in the song that this show would later become closely tied to. As Finn puts the group back together, Emma puts Will back together, reminding him of the passion that got him to get involved in the first place. It's almost enough to do it, but Will still decides to walk out until... The choreography is minimal, the outfits are simple, but boy, they've got talent. Will sees this, walking in right as they hit their stride. The overdramatic shots of Quinn and Puck watching in disgust are great, by the way. Will can't help but see the potential in these crazy kids, singing their hearts out. They're dedicated, they're inspired, and he's absolutely touched. He's got to stay. He owes it to them.
From the top.
From the top. Cut to credits. Fantastic. Perfect. I love it. What a pilot. Glee does an amazing job introducing us to what could otherwise be an overload of characters. It has a tight script, making me laugh, but also making me understand who these guys are at every turn. Obviously, I love these characters. I love to hate Rachel and Sue. I love to see Finn and Will find happiness in life, and I want to see that underdog group of misfits succeed. This pilot has a great arc by itself, but it also sets up the entire series perfectly, so you know what to expect for episodes 2, 3, and beyond. I could not recommend it highly enough. I'm Sam Carrico, and thank you so much for watching my video.